How do you shoot an entire feature film with just $17,000, a skeleton crew, and walk away with a legit distribution deal plus a minimum guarantee? My guest today, Terrence McLeod, did exactly that with his debut feature, A Season for Love. He wrote, directed, shot, self financed it, and then landed the film on platforms like Apple TV, Amazon, Vudu, and YouTube movies. No film school pipeline, no famous producers, just strategy, grit, and smart decisions every step of the way. In this conversation, Terrence and I talk about how exactly he made it happen, from casting actors who believed in the story, to pulling off an emotionally rich drama on a micro budget, to the real cost of distribution. If you've got a script and not a lot of money, this episode is definitely for you. Here's my interview with Terrence McLeod. Let's start with the origin story. Like, what pulled you into filmmaking, and what was the moment where you knew you had to make A Season for Love?
Oh man, what pulled me into filmmaking? I think I'd say I've always had a camera, either photography or like a camcorder when I was a kid. For as long as I known, I'd say the catalyst was we went to Disney. I think I was 10 years old, and we did like a home documentary kind of movie. I just ran around the entire trip, just filming all my family, and I knew at that point that this was something I was going to pursue. Ended up, I was in the military for a little bit, went to school for mass communications and, with concentration TV and film, and kind of just fell into it that way. Just love it. So for the most of my career, I've been, camera operating and DPing other people's projects. And for me, for A Season for Love specifically, it was, really wanting to get back to those black love films that I fell in love with in the '90s that I felt like just weren't being made anymore. So I took it upon myself to direct it. So yeah, that's how it came to be.
You kind of have a similar story to me, because I would say my adventure started at Disney too. Because I was really interested in animation, and this was back when Disney World would have like the behind the scenes kind of animation drawings and stuff. So that's kind of what got me started too. So that's interesting to hear you say that. So what were you hoping to achieve with this film? Like, I talked to a lot of filmmakers, and it's kind of interesting to hear the mix as far as why they're making films. They're either making films just straight business, like we're going to make this particular film because we know it needs to make money. Are you trying to build a career? You talked a little bit about wanting to get to those black romance stories, like you mentioned. I guess, what was your kind of motivation or hope of outcome with this film?
Yeah, so I directed 2 shorts before this, so I kinda dabbled into directing, but I wasn't really, I've always considered myself, a camera operator, not really a director. But after my second short, which was called At What Cost, a lot of my friends was like, "Hey man, you're kinda good at this, the writing and the storytelling." So I was like, "Okay." Once I found a niche in black romance that I kinda wanted to exploit, I was like, I really wanted it to be a calling card for me. I wasn't really trying to make, business wise. It was like I know there's stories and scripts I have that I want to do down the road that are definitely geared toward that. But for me, for this, it was kind of a resume builder. You know, um, I ended up getting distribution, which I know we can talk about later. But I really wasn't the goal at first. The goal was really just to go out there and make something and prove to myself that I can do it.
So you mentioned to me before we started rolling that you worked under an LLC with this film, which is something that I definitely recommend to people. How early in the process did you get that set up, and why was that important for a micro budget project like this?
I have a company called Alter Vision, that's LLC, and then I made A Season for Love, a LLC as well, that Alter Vision owns. It was basically just to control the liability, just in case, especially, when we have uh, a micro budget film like this, there's so many things that can go wrong, and it was really just to protect myself and my assets from anything that could go wrong, specifically, and to control where the money was going. I didn't want to, because as Alter Vision will grow, I definitely wanted to separate my expenses. So that was the goal behind it.
As far as like the LLC and such, because this is giving me asking you a personal question at this point. Now, as far as because like for me, I have an LLC for my company too, but I don't have a separate one for my film. Now, have you found, like, are you working with an accountant on all of your taxes and stuff? Or are you doing that on your own?
I need to. I'm doing it on my own right now, and it can get with two different companies in person. It can get a little convoluted. Um, But I think the important thing to keep in mind is they're all single member, right? So it's all pass through. And I have a I have a job also, so like the self employment tax kind of gets relieved through that. So really, it's separate for the like what's coming in, coming out. But when it comes to taxes, since it's all passed through anyway, it kind of just goes in one, but yeah, one pot anyway. I think we'll find out in January.
That is true. I was curious because one thing I'm trying to figure out, as far as if I want to create an LLC for all my different companies, is if my accountant is going to charge me as if that's different as a different account, even though it's really not that much more complicated to do my taxes with, like especially if the film is not really having more expenses when it's done. So I know that's probably more of a question for my accountant than it is for you. But if I was curious if you experienced that yet. So you made this feature film for around 17,000. So your budget is very similar to mine. I made mine for about 16,000. So we're very similar as far as just the types of films, because I made kind of a drama, you made a bit of a drama, different genres, but kind of very very similar films, just from a logistic standpoint. So where did that money come from? Like were you doing, is that from your personals, or did you do any crowdfunding, anything like that?
No, so that was all personal. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. Next time we're definitely gonna do try to get some investors for sure. But no, it was all personal. So actually uh to get it in the can to shoot it, right, we spent around 11,000. So since we got picked up, we spent some marketing money. And then there was some extra post money just to get some audio fixes done. And that's where the extra, that's where it came out to 17. But to shoot it, cast, locations, small crew, we got it done for around 10, $11,000.
What did you decide was worth spending money on, and what did you intentionally cut or kind of do DIY?
So I decided to DP it myself. So I kind of kept the crew very minimal. I think it was like five of us most days. Substituted some people in and out. We like I said, we were all working, so we shot on weekends throughout the summer. So from June to October 2024 is basically when we shot the whole movie. Um Really, I spent money on cast. I do believe that, especially when you're doing dramas like this, your talent is what matters the most, right? It has the, for you to tell a good story, your talent has to make it believable. And outside of that, most of our locations actually were just locations of cast and crew, except we did pay for two of them. So the scene where they're at the poetry event, we paid for that one, and then we paid for the congresswoman's house. We paid for her space. Outside of that, everything, was just beg, borrow, steal. Hey, let's shoot this scene here, kind of. So that's where the money mostly went, was, cast and crafty, honestly, feeding people.
A follow-up question there. One thing I really like to ask filmmakers, like I talked to a filmmaker recently, and I've been trying to figure out how to frame this question, but he has like this triangle as far as crew, where he feels like if you have a director, which is typically going to be the person that I'm talking to, right? And then he also had a camera operator and a cinematographer on there. And he said if you have those three positions, everything else should work out. Now, for me personally, I would probably swap out camera operator, because that's something I can do. I've never worked with a cinematographer yet, so I've always had to be the cinematographer for my projects. But for my triangle would be if I had somebody to do sound, so I didn't have to worry about sound, and somebody to do camera, so I don't have to do camera. Everything else should pretty much work itself out. I'm curious for you, like what is kind of your minimal bare bones crew for you to accomplish a film?
Yeah, sound definitely, 'cause my brain can't even think like that. Like, I need someone who just knows what they're doing. And then, I can do, I obviously gonna direct, so, and I'm a DP, so I can do all the camera stuff. I'd say honestly, I need like a first AD or unit production manager just to keep me on schedule and keep me organized. Because, everything else we can handle, us 3, but, those are my like, outside of me, somebody that can do sound and someone who can just have the set organized and understand and keep me on schedule for sure. I think we can get through it that way.
I'm curious to get your thoughts as far as the sound because the sound in this film is very good considering the budget. Like the sound in my movie is not very good at times. I had somebody professionally there to record sometimes, and then sometimes it was just whoever's on set and can handle a boom pole. So once you're getting to our budget level, one of the first things that's kind of neglected is the sound. It's because you're usually in a situation like I'm in where you're just having to throw some lavs up and hope that nothing gets bumped or something's recorded properly or like I said somebody it's a PA that's just on set can just handle a boom pole. So how did you guys handle sound on production specifically for the film?
Yeah, we had a dedicated sound guy. His name's John Armstrong, really cool guy. He came with his own equipment, and he was there most days. And then I think there was 2 days where he wasn't, where I had a substitute who also had his own equipment. So I think for me, again, like sound is really important. So when we were crewing up, that's the first position I actually hired for. And I wanted to make sure, they knew what they were doing specifically because, like you said, I think sound will take you out of a project quicker than anything else. And then, we had hiccups as well, and that's where most of my money in post went was fixing that as best as we could. So, I'd say for anybody watching, right, I think what's most even more than picture, and like I said, I'm a DP, and I take the picture very seriously. But you know, when I put my producer's hat on, the director's hat on, I know that sound is 50% of the film, and if that's not good, that's gonna take a lot of people out of it. So I definitely, if you have a budget, I'd allocate a decent amount to that, especially over camera or anything, because nowadays every camera is pretty much gonna get you a great image if as long as you can expose it correctly.
No matter what your budget size, you're inevitably going to have to ask for favors, and especially for a film where you made it for $11,000, you're definitely asking for a lot of favors, especially if you're paying people. Maybe that's asking for a lower rate, maybe that's asking for something else, whatever, right? Especially when it comes to the sound. Now, luckily, you shot the film yourself. I'm assuming you probably own your own equipment too, if you're a camera operator. So that helps a lot. But a sound recordist specifically, not to get hung up on the sound, but a sound recordist can get very expensive very fast. And the film was shot. It took place in North Carolina, if I wasn't mistaken. But Charlotte's probably. I don't know if Charlotte's a big film place where you got like a lot of crew hanging around. But one thing I'm having trouble with, like there's not a lot of sound recordists for me, or at least affordable ones, I guess. And I've never like worked with a cinematographer before, at least on my projects. So I'm having trouble where I just can't get that crew, and then it just is what it is. So I'm curious, what's your advice as far as asking for favors and being able to find good crew to help you with your film?
I'm big on networking across, right? I think a lot of people, you'll go online, you'll see someone doing great things, and you go, I need to work with him. Where really what you need to do is, go if there's a film like Society in your community, just find that person who's on the same level as you and just start working on stuff together, right? For it was like you said, we begged, like I didn't pay my sound guy his rate at all. We couldn't afford it. But we've done enough projects together where, you know, it's cool. It's okay for me to call in a favor and say, "Hey, I got this thing. I think it'll level up both of us." Um, so definitely network across. Meet people where they're at. Work on projects sometimes for free if you can. You know what I mean? And what you get from that, because people say you never should work for free. I don't agree. I think look at what the opportunity is and think of it as building up your network and building relationships. Right? This is a relationship business. It always has been. It's always going to be. So you have to establish those relationships, and to do that, sometimes that requires you to get out there, work for free, meet people, barter.
How did you end up casting for your film? Like, did you go with experienced actors, friends, a mix? And how did you convince them to be a part of this low budget project?
Yeah, it was a mix. Like I said, I've worked on a lot of projects, so I get to work with a ton of different actors in the area. Danny who's Danny, who plays Sam in the movie. She's a professional mermaid, which I had no idea was a thing. But she's also a theater actress. I want to say she went to Wilmington, and she's been in a tons of things. Fun fact: she was a stand-in for Angela Bassett in the second Black Panther movie. Um, so I've worked with her in the past, and she always wanted to do a romantic drama like that. So when I wrote it, I had her in mind. I just kind of called her up and said, "Hey, I have this." I did do a casting call, but honestly, well, from what we got in the casting call, we really didn't use. It was again based off relationships, people I worked with in the past, people who were like on my crew who said, "Hey, I worked with this person in the past. They're pretty good," and just calling them up and saying, "Hey, we don't have a lot of money, but that's a good story. Tell me what you think," and going from there. And then I also gave my cast, my leads, opportunities to. We didn't. The script wasn't improv at all, but they had heavy say on what their character would do, and you know what I mean. So I think when you work at a micro budget level like this, collaboration is key. Um, I don't think I'm the best writer at all. So once they got the script, it was definitely collaborative in deciding how to develop these characters even more, uh, and what their motivations would be. That was a collaborative effort to decide before we went into production. I think when you do it like that, it's easier for actors, especially actors starting out, to take pride in what they're doing because they feel more involved.
Since you had an LLC for the film in the beginning, that obviously tells me that you're very, you want to have your ducks in a row as far as just the legality process. But I'm also curious, like, did you use any contracts? Did you, like, how far into the legality process did you actually get into this film to, make it legit?
Yeah, everyone that worked was under a contract agreement. I do have I have a family member who's an attorney, which helps, right? So I would draw something up, they would look at it, they'd tell me good go, like they weren't doing everything, but they take a glance at it and tell me this is okay. Hey, you might want to tighten that up. There's things like that. But every from cast crew, anyone that was involved was under contract, and I think that's what also helped us get distribution because you know no distributor wants to take that risk of, especially at this level. So yeah, everyone was under standard contracts. I tried to, even though it wasn't a SAG project, I did pay them SAG ULB rates, which was it's 250 now. At the time, I want to say it was like 215 or maybe a little bit more, but everyone was paid at least that.
So getting more into the logistics as far as that, because obviously rates and stuff can add up. So how long was your shoots and how many hours a day were you working?
So we tried to stick to 10-hour days if we could. I think 1 or 2 days we did go over. A lot of time we actually finished sooner than that. And again, that's all because I had a great first AD who I brought on. But we shot 14 days total. I think we had a couple pickup days after that where we had just it was like really just a couple things, not really full. I wouldn't even count them full days, right? A couple hours. But I wanna say we shot 14 days, all weekends. We started in June. We did a weekend in June, 2 in July, another 2 in August, and then we took September off, and we came back in to finish it out in October.
So with a low budget project like this, it's obviously hard to make a small budget feel big. But you did scenes like having club scenes and such, and the poetry scenes and stuff like you had talked about earlier. So I'm curious, like, what techniques did you use to kind of make your smaller budget feel large?
Production design as best we could, and again, thrifting, just trying to keep it manageable. For the club scene, that's another scene, to go back, we did pay for, and it was really big, so and that was scary. It was like, "Okay, I have this big space, and I think we didn't have that many extras, so I was like, "How are we supposed to do this?" And it was really just, camera tricks, long lenses, shooting into the corner of the club and to make it kinda look packed, um, and then, lighting, really. Um I think if you're going to pay for a location, the best thing you can do is try to find something that is going to doesn't require too much set decoration, like where the production design is already there. And that was how I was able to make it look bigger than what it was really just saying, okay, I got to get a club. we could shoot in the warehouse, right? Put up a pop-up bar or something like that, but then I had to set deck all that. So it's like, let's just find something that exists, and that's what I was trying to do the entire time. It's like, what location I can get that's gonna require the minimum amount of effort to make it look good.
Were there any scenes that you had to rewrite or reimagine because of the limited resources?
Yeah, was a lot of things I cut out. So that, like, there was a second, the club scene was a lot bigger, but again, just the space we had, and I was like, "There's no way for us to do it without really reusing the same extras over and over again." And I was like, I don't wanna do that." And then so when she goes to DC, originally there was a whole sequence where, she's downtown, DC, you see the house and everything. I was like, "That's just not it's not feasible on this budget." So, we kinda just got a quick drone shot and cut to inside the house, which is actually in Charlotte. So, yeah, I think, but you go into that in the writing phase for me, right? I'm not writing for $1 million movie right now. I'm writing for something that I knew what I had, and I was like, okay, um, this is the story, right? This is what I want to tell. So let's go back. This is what I want to tell. I write it as if I have all the money in the world. And then I come back to it a day or two later and go, okay, this has to come out. This has to come out. What's in here enough where I can just tell the story, still make it sound good, look good with the money I have. So that whole DC sequence scaled down a lot, um, for us to fit it in and coming under budget.
Who handled your editing, and how did you manage that part of the process without ballooning the budget, especially since it costed you $11,000 to actually make the film, $6,000 also marketing, using that for marketing dollars too. That's not a lot. So I'm curious, what was your process there?
So I found an editor out of the UK first. So let me start there. So I did as we were shooting, we didn't shoot in sequence, but a lot of it, how I would do it is we shoot the weekend and then I edit. Like I cut up whatever scenes we done. So by the time we were done, I had a solid rough cut. And then from there, I found an editor in UK. His name is Thomas Linton. He's worked on a couple Kelsey Grammer projects as an assistant editor. I think he was an intern at the time. I liked his work, and you know, we worked out a decent rate for him. And he kind of did the clean. He did the clean edit. And what's tough about that is that he's in the UK, obviously, so it's like a 5 hour time difference. So it was a lot of 3, 4 in the morning Zoom calls to get it done. But I think it's worth it because I know a lot of people our budget decided to edit themselves. Um, I knew that wasn't really going to work out for me because I'm such a perfectionist at times. It would have never came out. So I needed someone, one who can see things differently from me, and two that I knew, was going to be on a deadline, um, to get it done. And I'm glad I did because there's a sequence in the movie, where Tori runs after the car. We shot that a few different ways, and in my rough cut, it was done a different way where he doesn't really catch up to the car. And if you watch the movie, you'll see that there's like he pretty much on the car, and she kind of it looks like as if she just ignores him and drives off. And I felt like that was definitely a deeper emotional um tone to that scene than I would have put in there. So I think, it's good to have a different editor because they're the audience's first eyes, right? Because if you're doing the entire project, you're seeing it the way you intend, which is great. But you got to remember that once this thing comes out, it's going to take on a life of its own, and it's the audience's film, right? It's how they feel about it. So you want somebody who can um, be that for some of the process.
What about handling the music and the post production sound? Because obviously, like, recording good sound is half the battle, but making it sound good is very difficult. So how did you, and your sound or your film sounded great. So how did you handle that aspect of it as well?
Man, I appreciate that really. We worked really hard on that. So our unit production manager, her name was Lisa Hanna. She has a cousin who is a music producer. So all the music, pretty much all of it, we did use. art list for one song, but everything else he created. And again, we got him at a discount, uh, which was great. I think, like I said, use your network as best you can for the music. And then Trasonic Sound out of Kansas City did the post production audio cleanup, and it was a lot of work. He did all the foley for it. And again, just kind of saying, hey, you'll be surprised what you can get when you're just honest and say, hey, I don't have a lot of money, but this is a good project, And how I work is I send this, like, obviously, script registered, and we're done. We shot it off. So I was like, here's the script, read it, tell me what you think. That's the first, because the script is the Bible, right? It's going to tell you what you need. From there, if they like it, then I send the cut. This is for music, because music comes, it's the last part of my post production workflow. Like, we do picture, lock, color, and music. Um, so once he read it, he liked it. I sent over the cut to him. He liked it, and then from there, it was just negotiating on price. Once we got something that you know I could afford, it was okay. And again, we went with him, but I reached out to like 4 or 5 different people, and most of them were like, I don't want to do it. You just can't afford me, and I understand. And you can't be mad about that, right? Because we're doing this for 12, whatever micro, like pennies, pretty much when it comes to production. So it's just like, reach out to people, be honest. This is what I have. This is what this film needs. Is it something you're capable of doing? And a lot of people just want to work, man. They want their work out there. So if you have something that's halfway decent, they'll meet you where you're at.
So to follow up here, because I'm noticing a trend in a lot of things you're saying, because you mentioned earlier, like going to local film networking events and such is definitely helpful, but a lot of your team that you've reached out to is not in North Carolina. So how are you reaching out? How are you finding these people? Because like for me, like I'm right outside of Chicago, so if I'm looking for somebody, it's probably in that Chicago region. I've never really looked outside of that, but we're in this age right now where the beauty of today's world is that we're able to reach out to people all over the world and send our projects. We may have not been able to do that, 10, 15 years ago so easily. So how has that worked for you to get these collaborators literally all over the world?
Yeah, so it's crazy, right? Because so the base of my production crew was all North Carolina based, but when it came to post production, yeah, we did look outside. I did have to go outside, and part of the reason was because key collaborators that I would work with were also busy, right? Because there's some post sound guys here that I would love to work with in North Carolina, but they were on other projects, right? And I was trying to meet a festival deadline that we didn't he didn't get into, but because of that, I decided to look outside. And I'm a member of Film Independent, which is a big national nonprofit organization that champions independent film. Believe it, out of LA. And I'm a member of a couple other organizations like the Gotham. And what's cool about those organizations is, they host meetups virtually and in person where you can just meet other members, right? And that's kind of how I did it. So, from there, once you're in these organizations, you can kind of reach out in forums and posts and just connect with people. Facebook, right? So, how I met my editor was I said, hey, I need an editor on Facebook, on indie budget film Facebook group, and he responded. And he sent me his reel, and we had conversations for about a month before we decided it was a great fit. For the audio guy, it was through Film Independent. Um, Again, it's, having conversations and then sending him the work to see if he likes it. So I think you're right. We live in a global society today, so it's much easier to reach out to people. I still think, connect with your community first, right? Definitely build up your community first. But again, if people are busy or you can't find anyone, it's so easy just to shoot out an email and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I think a lot of us get scared of the no's, but that's just part of the business that we're in.
Jumping back for a second to your actors, you had some spicy scenes in this film. Like we got a little spicy, and then we're at a point where I'm like, oh, all right. So this is what's going on. Which I mean, it's a love story, so can't complain. But I'm like, I'm surprised he was able to get this done on the budget that they got this done on. So when you're working on a limited budget like this, how are you, not only able to convince your actors to do scenes like that? I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it's definitely, it's still a lot, where people are undressing and there's a lot of intimacy. So how are you handling that, but also making it like a safe environment for all of them? Since I'm assuming you're probably not able to work with an intimacy coordinator and all that.
So we had someone, she's the intimacy coordinator now. She was in training at the time. So she was in training at the time. So she was happy to work for free to get the experience. So we had someone. And then, working with her and the actors, before we even shot anything, it was a lot of conversations about what's in the script, what we're comfortable with, what they're what I'm expecting, but what they're comfortable with, right? So once that was done, and then it's just closing the set. So for there, outside of acting, I was the only other guy on set, and I had numerous women that day. So anyone who was like a camera assistant or second AC, um, even my first AD wasn't on set that day. We closed it all down to just me. So only guys that were me and Tori, the other actor, and then it was like four other women, just to make her feel comfortable. Um, and then once we did that scene, it was literally just me in there with the camera, them and my intimacy coordinator. So how I handled that was just conversations, right? What are you okay doing? What are you not okay doing? Hey, we have this intimacy coordinator here. She's in training, but and I think because, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's three phases for intimacy coordinator, like the training, and she had finished the first phase, so she had the basic knowledge, just not the certification yet. And she took what she learned so far and really applied it on what techniques we can do to not show things and stuff like that. So they felt comfortable enough knowing that information to go ahead and do the scene. I'm thankful for that. But really, I think, anything like that, you want to limit the amount of people who are on set and just really want to make sure you're comfortable. Like, I told my actors, hey, at any point, if you feel like we're doing too much or you want to be done, we're done. All right. We can rewrite the scene to make it work for whatever your level of comfortability is. And they were understanding of that.
You've mentioned several times that you landed a distribution deal, but before we started recording, you told me you also secured a minimum guarantee. Now, for those who don't know what a minimum guarantee is, it's basically like an upfront payment that gets billed, like a distributor will bill on the back end of it until the minimum guarantee is met or paid back, and then you start making a split. Now, minimum guarantees are very, very uncommon these days. So I'm just curious about how you approach distribution in general. What made your current distributor different and why you chose them, and like just how did you score the MG?
Yeah. So we went, the plan was we wanted to get a sales agent. So we talked to somebody at first who we had attached. But once it was clear that we weren't going to get into major festivals, we kind of ended that relationship because I was like, I don't know about giving you such a high percentage on something if we're not going to sell this a traditional way, like at a big festival. So from there, we got into minor festivals, and I just started. There's a few distributors where if you go to their website, you could submit your work to them. So we did. We got a couple hits, and we were talking, and a lot of those um distributors, and what's the one? Indie Film Rights is one of them, right? They're all kind of that standard of contract where it's either 25/75 or 80/20. Um, so for me, and we went with Vision Films. I thought that out of all of them, we talked to Gravitas, we talked to a few others. Out of all of them, Vision, I felt like they had the most experience to me, and that's why I went with them. And at first, it was your standard deal, no P&A, no marketing, um, 25/75. That's it. Um, but and I was like, well, I have all these other distributors who are offering me the same thing. So basically, again, if you don't ask, you're not going to get, right? And I think a lot of filmmakers, there's a lot of talk, oh, MGs don't exist anymore. You're not going to get it. Where the truth of the matter is, a lot of people aren't asking, or if it's their first film, they don't know what to ask for. Like I said, I've been lucky enough to, be a director of photography on a few projects, so I know producers. And they were like, same thing. Hey, man, ask for it. If they're talking to you, they're interested, right? So they're talking to you. They're not just gonna. Because I think the scare is, oh, I had this distributor on the line. If I say the wrong thing, they're gonna move on, right? But the fact of the matter is that they're having a conversation. There's what, thousands of movies made a day, right? So if you got them, if you're talking to them actively, they're interested in your project, right? So take the time to ask. So the deal that was offered to me was it was your standard run of the mill indie film deal, right? So for me, it was like, okay, well, if that's the bar that all these other companies are giving me, why not just ask for more? So I just asked. I was like, in the email, just negotiate. And it was like, if you're offering this is what I would prefer. And it was back and forth on the number. And once we settled on the number, it was okay. So
Outside of that, I'm curious, what's one thing about distribution that you didn't know about that you wish somebody would have told you before signing the deal?
the deliverables. um, yeah, man. You make this film one way and thank God for my audio guy, my post production audio guy, because there's so many different little things like the 5.1 mixer. I'm just like, it's stereo. But just the amount of deliverables that are needed is the one thing that, and the cost, because it balloons the cost. Um, that we really need to pay attention to. It's not just shoot it, send it. It's a lot of different things, from captions, especially if you're doing worldwide distribution. It's a lot of different things. Your M&E track, that you have to pay attention to. So,
Looking back, do you feel like this was the right path, or would you consider a self distribution option or an aggregator like Film Hub on the next one?
I think I would consider a self distribution. Now that I know, I think the thing is, you have to know what you're getting with a distributor, right? Now that I know what's what you're getting, and going with a distributor opens doors because there's conversations with people that we can't have, even through Film Hub. You can't have, right? There's direct access that distributors have. The scary thing is that once you know, you can definitely do it yourself. It might take a little bit of money, but the good thing about Film Hub is it's the reach, right? But again, the problem is the marketing costs. And that's why I think, you know, and the problem, it's a hard question to answer because most distributors at this level are not putting in, there's no P&A, there's no marketing, right? So you end up, that's why I'm still spending money today on marketing, right? So it's like, if I'm going to do that and the payouts are going to be biggest on Amazon and like Apple or Voodoo or Fandango at home, like the traditional channels, it's like, well, I can get on those channels on Film Hub. So it's like, but the thing that you don't get from Film Hub is that, well, from what because I haven't done it, so I don't know, but that the cool thing with my distributor is I can pick up the phone or I can, email and I can get a response almost because I'm in that business relationship. With Film Hub, you kind of don't know who you're in a relationship with, right? So that's what scares me. But as far as like getting on those big platforms, and if you have the money and the capital to do all the marketing yourself, it's definitely possible. Um, and hey, if it makes sense, because 20%, keeping 80%, and yeah, I probably will do it. Um, it just depends, man. It depends. If it's a really small project, yeah, because I'm not worried about the return. Um, It's definitely, and there's Bitmax. There's a few different aggregators that I've considered, um, but again, it all depends on how big the project is. If I need a bigger return, and I think because obviously I'm speaking future now, right? I'll probably still go with a traditional distributor if I can. Um, but now that I kind of know the tricks of the trade, it's a much easier pill to swallow to say we can do this ourselves.
One comment on Film Hub, because I am actually on Film Hub. Their communication sucks, so I can attest to that. But I will say I have not needed anything from them either. So I've had no reason to pick up the phone. So I haven't had that experience. Whereas a lot of people who complain about Film Hub have had to have those conversations with them, and it's hard to get a hold of them. So I guess take that for what it's worth, right?
No, that's good, and, you guys get it's like quarterly payouts and quarterly reports through FilmHub?
I don't have any I mean, I can see how much I've made, but I don't know like where that money's coming from, but I get paid every month. So, I mean, it just depends on the platform. Like Tubi pays out every month. I can't remember. Like I'm on a ton of small platforms. Like Tubi's the only one that's kind of worthwhile right now, but they pay out every month. A lot of other platforms may pay out quarterly, sometimes biannually. I mean, it really just depends, but I see money every single month.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. I think if we didn't get a distributor, we were definitely going that route, right? We were going that route. I just wanted to see what was open traditionally first. So yeah, I'd definitely be open to it in the future, for sure.
So you mentioned marketing quite a bit, and that's something I like to talk about a lot on this channel because I don't think it's something filmmakers think about enough. So, as far as marketing with this movie, what avenues have you taken and have you seen a return from the marketing strategies that you've used?
We stuck to social media marketing, so Google ads, YouTube ads, Facebook, Meta ads. That's where the money's gone. Now, I have seen, we've boosted trailers and exclusive clips. I've seen the views go up, and they've it's hard to say because we release on June 3rd, so I don't have reporting yet to say, "Hey," but YouTube channel subscriber count went up. So, and the amount of click because what YouTube shows you, it shows you to click through, right? Who's clicking. So they're clicking the link. I think we were like 85% click rate, which is like, okay. They're clicking the link. Now, are they buying or renting the movie? I don't know yet. But from the click-through rate, it seems to be working. So that's where I'm spending most of the marketing money. Um, yeah, that's it, really. Again, because I'm such a small budget, that's all I really have to do, right? I would love to do a billboard or do ads on, like, bigger platforms, but for right now, I think it's working for us, and again, once we get those first reports, I can see, "Okay, let's scale down here, let's scale up here," um, to make that decision.
Are you trying to get professional reviews or anything like that, or just user generated view or reviews?
We've gotten a few, like, we've gotten a few outlets to I think we got, like, 2 or 3, to review the movie, not none of the big trades, so we're definitely more user reviews on IMDb and Amazon specifically. My distributor says those do help, um, so, yeah, it's just reaching out to people, and saying, "Hey, if you watch it, leave a review," positive or negative, really positive, please, if you like it, but really just your honest thoughts on the movie.
One thing I like to push on this channel that I'll be curious to get your opinion on, but we live in an age of social media, and you mentioned having to do a lot of social media promotion. But like, I started my YouTube channel as a way to promote my projects, and you mentioned to me too, like you need to get as much promotion as you possibly can. Now, I mean, is my platform the best way to do that? I don't know, but I actually just talked to another filmmaker and I got his opinion on it. And he said getting your face out anywhere is definitely important. But, I feel like today with filmmaking, you kind of need to be the biggest cheerleader of your film. You need to be getting your face out there, talking about it, creating content around that. Is that something you're doing? Is that something you're looking to do? Or kind of like what's your thoughts on that overall?
No, yeah, that's exactly it, and it's crazy because I hate it, right? If I can just be in the house all day, I would, but, no, we gotta sell this thing, right? So, yeah, it's reaching out to everybody on social media as much as I can. As far as in the community, again, going to events, we and my distribution deal, which is great, is I kept reserved screening rights, so I get the opportunity to screen it wherever I want and keep the money, which is great. Um, and so we try to set up screenings every now and again just to see if there's still engagement out there. So yeah, you're right. You have to be your biggest cheerleader, especially in a sea of films where everything is coming out so often. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's all about keeping and like he's right, you know, keeping your face out there, keep talking about it. I think me and my one of my friends, we did this thing where it's like you gotta show somebody something 15 times before it registers that they may need to look at it, right? So if you're not bothering people that many times, you're not really selling your project. And that's just my mentality now is like every time I see someone, hey, did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see? Until I'm just like, I know they're tired of me, but I gotta do what I gotta do.
If you were to start over, or at least offer somebody advice who was looking to, start a project like at your scale, I guess what would you do differently the second time, or if you could remake this, or if you could start over again, what advice would you give to make a film like this?
Hire people who are better than you know, for sure. Um, and just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about the naysayers, right? And try to have as much fun as possible. Don't stress out, you know, at the end of the day. But if I had to do it again, I probably wouldn't because I look at my bank account and go, this was not a good. I try to get investors. That's what I do, for sure. I wouldn't try to take it on myself. But if I had to, um, just have fun, man, and don't stress too much about what it's gonna look like. Just tell your story. That's it. That's what I tell any aspiring filmmaker who asks me how I did it is that is just if you have a you have a phone now, right? You have this little device that can do 4K 120, which is insane, right? So it's like just go shoot a movie. Go shoot a movie. Somebody will watch it.
As we wrap up here, we talked a lot about a lot of different topics, but I like to leave some room. Like if there's anything specifically that you want to leave off on that we didn't talk about, maybe something I didn't think about or you didn't think about and you just thought about. Is there anything you want to leave off for the people watching?
Don't wait on people to give you a yes, just do it. Network across to say again, right? Too often I hear filmmakers, I need this equipment. I want to work with this person. That person doesn't know who you are. That person's not checking for you, but that person right next door is. You know what I mean? Build something together.
One question I'd like to leave off on is if you could be a fly on any production, fly on the wall in any production, which movie would you choose and why?
I just seen F1 last night. That movie is amazing, and I'm such a fan of Claudio Miranda and his work as a DP. I would love to have been there just to see how they like some of those racing. Some of the car shots were just amazing to me, and I was like, I seen it in IMAX. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I definitely wish I was. I wish I was even like a little PA or a runner on that set just to be around that to see exactly how they were able to accomplish that. So that's what comes to mind right now because that's literally I just seen it. So.
Terrence, thank you so much for coming on today. This was awesome, and I mean, you're teaching me things that I didn't even think about before. Trying to find new crew and working with people outside of even working with people inside your community and outside your community as well. Where can people watch your film and learn more about you?
Yeah, so right now the film is available. It's called A Season for Love. It's available on, transactional VOD platforms, Apple TV, Amazon, YouTube Movies, Google Play, Fandango at Home. If you are a library card holder, you can rent it on Hoopla. Um, you can see more about the film on Instagram, at A Season for Love Film. For me, my Instagram is Terry_Altair. I have a YouTube channel called Altair Vision. That's where you can see the trailer, and we post exclusive clips, and soon some BTS content will be on there soon. So that's where you can keep up with me and what I got going on.
I want to give Terrence another huge shout out for coming on the channel today. Obviously, it was awesome listening to all of his different advice as far as how he made his film. Like, I definitely took a lot away, with trying to connect with other filmmakers all over the world because, you don't always have to connect locally anymore. Definitely check out his film, YouTube channel, and everything else he talked about. I will have all that in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, I would definitely appreciate if you hit the like button, as well as subscribing to my channel if you'd like to see more interviews just like this one. And if you'd like to help support me directly, you can watch my feature film Cashing Out, which is on a bunch of different streaming platforms. You can find that at cashingoutfilm.com or linked in the description below. And of course, if you would like to continue watching some of my other interviews, I'll have a couple linked on screen here that you can check out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.